I'm leaning towards mechanical or mechatronics engineering in that sort of field.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
You can build us a robot in the future when we need
to keep the microphone up.
Yeah, exactly. You can hold it for us.
Oh my God. Nice. No, that was savage, but I like it. Man.
I can't think of any more human activity than conducting science experiments.
The game I play is a very interesting one. It's imagination in a tight straitjacket.
The beauty of a living thing is not the atoms that go into it, but the way those atoms are put together.
What I always think should be the basis of education is not answers, but questions. We should teach kids how to question.
For the folks at home, this is round 2. I feel like a noob, but it's all good. It's part of life, right? Making mistakes. And plus, we can edit, as I was saying before.
All right, so why don't you introduce him again then?
Yeah, so we met these guys. Girraween, was it?
Girraween?
Oh
Yeah?
Girraween, sorry guys. I'm bad with names, but great with faces. We met you guys at Western Sydney University. You guys had the competition, and we were pretty impressed by what you were doing. So we want to have you guys on to talk about what you're doing, why you're doing it. So
and the competition was something that's I'm very fond of, which is F1. I love watching the F1. So we walked past at Western Sydney Uni and just saw the F1 in Schools program on, and we're like, got to go and check that out. So I don't know. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves first? Yeah. And everyone's gonna go. Don't worry.
We'll start from the left, and then we'll just work our way.
There you go.
Yep.
Tell us your name.
My name is Julian Peen.
Yeah.
And I was managing the CAD for the car and also marketing. So my job was to create the design of the car in 3D software on the computer.
Nice.
And once I had that done, it was sent to a 3D printer for the first test.
Okay.
To make sure that the car was in the right shape.
Right.
That's cool. We've got some 3D printers over here, which we might put on camera later as well. That's great.
And for marketing, I had to organize sponsors for the team.
Right.
And those were my roles.
Right. Before we go, I want to ask, how do you organize sponsors? Do you just call up random people and say, hey, man, I have this great idea. You guys should put like $1,000 in my pocket to get this going. How do you do that?
That's pretty much what it is. You call you call different companies and you tell them a bit about what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
And once they know that, they either sponsor you or they don't sponsor you.
Right.
It's a lot easier if you know the people as well. So I knew a few people, so they were willing to sponsor us.
Right. Well, I just forgot.
Excellent.
Yeah,
He's just thinking like, how can I get some money for my podcast?
Come on. I'm not
Hi, my name's Tanuska Ninjakumar. I was in charge of the folio. So folio is basically when you explain what you've done throughout the competition, how the car's made, and all that. Yeah.
So it's about telling the story.
Yeah, story of our journey in this competition.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. We're going to get into that story stuff first. And okay, who's next?
My name's Dion, and this was my first time participating in this F1 challenge. I think a few of my teammates have done it more than once, so it's been fun, and I hope to keep going.
What have you learnt as your first time?
It's been great. I've learned so many things about engineering, making cars, and
Okay, nice.
That's great.
Yeah, cool. Okay, who's next?
My name's Pravin Gajendra. I was the team manager, and what I had to do was pretty much put everything together, organize all the meetings and all of that. I was also just alone in charge of the final assembly of the car. So that includes after the car's been made, you know, kind of like the quality control stuff. And then I also helped Julian a bit with the CAD and sponsors as well. Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys, before we go on, what is CAD? Because I'm confused what CAD is.
CAD stands for
Get right on the mic for us.
CAD stands for computer aided drawing, and what it is, it's pretty much a type of software where you can not only just draw on a 2D axis, you can do it on a 3D axis. And yeah, it's a new way of creating things. It saves a lot of time, because if you were to do it on paper, yeah, and you were doing drawings on paper, if you mess something up, then what you have to do is you pretty much have to start the whole thing again, whereas in CAD you just hit the back button a few times and then you can go from there.
You can control Z it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
and the other advantage of using CAD is that when we finish making the car in CAD, it's that file that we use to actually make the car.
Oh.
So it's like works with 3D printing software,
Pretty
is
much,
it? Yeah, cool.
You just have to convert the file into a different file type, and then you can use that to 3D print the car. And then for the final stage of the competition, we needed to make our cars out of wood. And then to do that, there was yet another type of file type which we had to convert it into. And yeah, again, we needed the CAD software to do that.
So did you have to do like programming for this? Did you have to learn any coding?
Not much, but with the milling process, the milling machine, it's pretty much what you have to do is you put in a block of wood, and then the machine, it has a drill bit which spins really fast, and that goes around carving your car out of the piece of wood. And every time that drill bit moves, there's a different line of code, yeah? So it shows you where it needs to move on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis as well, yeah, because it's up and down as well.
Yeah.
So all of that was done through a software called QuickCam Pro. When we finished making the file for our car, it had separate lines like that for every single time that the drill bit had to move. And that file was about, I think, 700,000 lines long.
Whoa.
So yeah, we wouldn't have been able to do that on our own. So that's why we needed the software.
Nice.
Cool.
Do you
Okay.
wanna introduce
And what's
yourself?
last but not least? Come on in, yeah, get right on the mic for us. Cheers.
My name is Praveen, and I did part of the folio and the pit display, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also did part of the painting for the car.
Painting for the car, like
this.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? And I guess we should probably, because we've already started talking about it a bit, we should actually find out what the F1 in Schools program is, because it's actually really multidisciplinary, which is something that I didn't realize about it when we came and saw you guys at the uni a couple of months ago. So why don't you, and someone can jump in on this, whoever wants to, why don't you guys tell us a bit about what the F1 in Schools program actually is, because it sounds pretty diverse and interesting.
Don't be afraid to
Yeah, get right on top
Make
of
it
it
your
for us,
friend.
that's good.
Even though it's got a sock, I promise it hasn't been worn.
Maybe
Dr. Carl wore it once. No.
The F1 in Schools project it's the largest competition for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in schools, and it's been done all over the world. It's a global competition, so it's not just done in Australia and New South Wales. The way that it works is that people start with an in-schools competition where you design a basic car in a portfolio, and then those get raced down a 20-meter long track. And then...
And how do they get raced? Because I thought that was pretty cool. How does the racing actually occur? How do you make this car move?
If you see in the back of one of the F1 cars, they have a slot in the back, and inside that hole is a carbon dioxide canister. That carbon dioxide canister is highly pressurized, so the back gets punctured, and all that gets released from that tiny little hole that's been created, and it launches the car down the track.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's like Newton's, what is it,
sorry, go on.
second law of motion. For every action is an equal opposite reaction.
I don't know, I'm not a physicist.
Come on, dude. You're a scientist, you should know this stuff.
No, that's really cool. It's because it's raced, isn't it? So then it's all timed, and and there's winners. But there's not just winners in the speed category, because you were mentioning before about designing a pit display. You have to find sponsors. You have to create portfolios of your works. There's actually lots of different criteria that get judged on. Does somebody else maybe want to talk about all the different criteria that you get judged on for the F1 in Schools program?
So there's basically like what you think in F1 in schools. There's the racing. So there's like timed races and there's knockout races. So that's just knockouts just explained itself. We came second for that. And for folio, we have to basically explain the journey. And also for sponsors, we have to like get the sponsors. Like this is F1 in schools tournament is like a downscaled version of the actual F1 tournament.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really cool.
Rather than in the actual
get right,
F1,
down the mic, right?
in the actual F1 competition, teams spend about maybe $300 million a year just in R&D. So this is kind of like a scaled down version. It's run by the same people as well. So rather than spending millions of US dollars a year, this is scaled down, so we maybe spend about $1,000, maybe $1,500 a year for the competition.
And that's money you have to source through sponsors. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
And so yeah, they mark us based on the way we gain sponsors. We have to make a visual presentation as well. They mark us for that. There's 3 areas in engineering where we get marked on. So there's one of them was like concepts used in the car, how CAD was used, how the machining process was done, how all of the drawings were done, how they were included in the folio and so forth. So that gets marked as well. There's also there's the pit display that gets marked as well. So the marketing and pit display thing kind of go under one category. So when we ask a certain company to sponsor us, the key is to always give them back something in return so that we can maintain the relationship, go back to them if we need something. So what we said was we'd give them brand exposure, because the F1 in schools competition, there's actual engineers there who are marking us. So kind of like plugging their business, which is good for them as well, because these are people who are actually in the industry. Yeah, it's not just something that's done just at schools. The markers and stuff, they are actually in the industry. They actually have to look for companies that do such things. So yeah, the companies also gain something by sponsoring us. We get marked based on all of that.
And like you were saying before, I guess because it's international and worldwide, there's also that appeal too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like Julian was saying earlier, we first have the school-based competition. After that, we have the regional competition, and then we go to state. After state, there's the national competition. So that's all of the teams in Australia compete. And I think it's about the top 3 or 4 teams from each country. They go to the international competition. That's held every year in April. It's either held in Singapore or Malaysia. So yeah, you obviously have to find the money for all of that, for the plane tickets, accommodation, all of that goes under the sponsoring.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow. So I thought, okay, so you guys have to raise that money yourself.
Yeah.
That's intense, dude.
Yeah,
That's some like, I just have to say, you guys are like such hustlers. I mean, you're trying to like make, this is all on you. I thought, okay, like your teachers probably somehow help you out, get money for you or whatever, but no, you guys are doing it everything. You guys are doing everything.
The teachers, obviously, they helped us a lot as well with like mentoring, telling us what other teams have done in the past, but they're not actually allowed to do things for us. They're not actually allowed to do things for us because this is supposed to replicate some sort of an actual job. So if you were in the actual workforce, we wouldn't have teachers. We'd have mentors sometimes, but we wouldn't have an actual teacher to turn to say, can you do this for us? Can you help us with this? So basic things the teachers were able to give us help with, and that was just talking to us about like what we should do differently and stuff like that. But everything else was up to us to come up with, up to us to make. So yeah, that was all us.
Cool. Can I, because we have to save questions for the next group as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to, I just wanted to find out before we go what these guys want to do in their futures. But if you had
before that, I was just going to ask, why get involved in this in the first place? I mean, I have a nephew and I have like his friends, but they're like playing video games and just like chilling out. Like, what got you guys into this?
Oh, don't worry, we did do that too.
F1 2017.
So like one of my reasons is because it has a lot of competition in this school. In school level, like we have a lot of competition to get into regionals. For other schools, there's not a lot of competition, so they might get in straight away to regionals. And like I'm thinking somewhere in the future of engineering or anything like that. So yeah, this competition is leading me to my future.
Oh,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
And so, well, that's probably a really nice segue then.
But before, I want to hear other people, man.
About their-
yeah,
all right.
what? Come on, man. There's like 4 other guys here.
So for me, it just looked really fun, and I saw all these other guys do it, all my other teammates, like last year, I think. And yeah, it just looked really fun. I just want to try it out.
That's cool.
Nice. Okay. Julian.
Yep. I'm not an engineer as such. I'm not following engineering, but I'm very interested in the whole computer-aided design section of actually designing that car in the software and seeing it being made. That's what I like. And I'm thinking about getting a future in software design.
Nice.
So being able to create a software that can do CAD would be something that I would like to do.
Yeah, maybe we should do both these questions at the same time.
Well, they
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
have
yeah,
done
yeah,
that,
exactly.
man. They kind of have done that. If you haven't noticed that, please.
So at first I joined because it just looked fun. Then afterwards I realized even if it is fun, we're also learning important skills for later on in life.
Such
So
as?
I joined it.
No, I just want to get, because people listening would be like, oh yeah, like I should put my kids through this because they'll learn these skills. Can you give us some examples of skills that you've learned?
I learned how to paint a car properly.
Yeah.
No, that's good, man. Yeah.
And I also learned a bit of basic AutoCAD. And I might be able to use that later in life.
Yeah. And I'm sure you learnt like how to work within a team,
Oh, yeah,
how
of
to
course.
negotiate.
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, man, that's not easy work. You get to university, you expect people like to be able to work in teams, and they're just terrible. So gaining these skills and learning how to manage other people and negotiate with them is very important. Yeah.
So the reason I got into F1 is I'm actually, you get these diehard soccer fans that just spend all their time watching soccer. It's different with me. For me, I'm just like the biggest F1 fan. So every night, every other weekend, I'm just up at like 3 a.m. watching the races happening on the other side of the world. So
That's
F1's
cool. Who's
like
your favourite driver?
Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, nice. I think I asked you that, didn't I, the other day?
Yeah. So so F1, it's kind of like a dream for me. I actually want to get a job in F1. That would be like my ultimate goal. So when I saw this come up at school, I was like, oh my god, this is like the way for me to get into this. This is how I can get like experience in it. Yeah. It's a good like a launch pad to get into actual F1 because it's run by the same people as well. So yeah, I just gave it everything that I could, and I'm happy like with the team as well because we've come a long way from where we started. We've all learned different things, and it's just been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Damn, I was gonna say, okay, we're running.
I think we should change over.
Yeah,
Look,
change over.
thanks a lot, guys. It's been a fascinating conversation,
thank
much
you for
like the
coming
one
down.
we had the other day at the uni. That was really good too.
But we have this one recorded for the record, so that's
Yeah.
good. Cool. Yeah, it was very nice talking to you guys. We're gonna take photos of all these cars and include it in the episode. But yeah, cool. You guys are really cool, man. I'm really impressed. I wish I had my life together like you guys did at your age. Seriously, I was so lost. Anyway.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So, let's start with your names and how about your role in your team. Okay, so we'll go from the left. And don't be afraid to play with the mic. Yep.
So I'm Leonard, and I'm the graphics designer of the team. So what I had to do was I had to design the logos and a lot of the graphics that you see. So for example, the render on the front of the car.
Yeah, do you wanna?
And
The
also
logo up here.
also the design of the portfolios and everything.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us, like this logo, you got like a gear plus fire. What is it, or am I just like misinterpreting?
Well, what's the name of your team? Tell us that.
Yeah, that's probably.
Blaze Racing.
Blaze Racing.
Okay.
So that probably explains the flame.
No.
I'm guessing the gear is there too.
Yeah, the gears there to represent the engineering side of things. Yeah.
Cool.
And the fire, the blaze.
The blaze.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Alex.
Because fire's fast, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
How's fire fast, man?
Yeah, red hot. Ferrari.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, Leonard. Okay. Let's have you.
Hi, I'm Divyam. I'm the engineering designer of the team. So I designed the car, as well as some promotional item. I had contribution in promotional item designing and, all the CAD related stuff.
So you actually designed the car in that modeling program?
Yep, so it's a 3D CAD software called Autodesk Inventor. There are many that people use, but we prefer this one, and that's what we use to design the car.
Okay, before we get on to that, I just want to ask a question. So tell me, what are some factors that you have to consider when you're designing a car like this?
Well, factors we have to consider, a major one, yes, aerodynamic is very helpful, but one of the major factors that we think is weight. The car has to be minimum of 52 grams, and if you go 52.5, there's almost no chance you'll beat the other one. So the weight has to be 52.1 gram, just 52.
So basically, as close as you get to that 52 gram cutoff, the faster your car's going to go.
The faster your car is.
Yeah.
But then after that, you also have to look at the assembly system. So we have a bearing and a seat wheel, which has a low friction, which gives great spin.
Yeah, that was something actually I was going to ask you later that I noticed, because friction in F1 is kind of important, isn't it? To have that friction, and but it looks like your cars don't have much friction. So tell us about that.
Yeah, because so F1 cars generate the thrust through the wheels, while these cars actually get pushed along the track. So the wheel does not need to have traction along the floor. It can just, and most of the time...
Probably the opposite, the less friction it has, the better then, because it's just sliding,
Just sliding across the floor, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really... I see this how little I know about cars. Thank you for educating me.
All right.
Okay, who's next?
I guess I'll
go
next. My name's Nathan, and I'm the production manager for the team. So I worked on sort of finishing the whole design. I worked on our pit display, sanding and working on the cars, finishing up the physical project.
What do you mean by finishing up?
Adding the finishing touches, sanding the car so that it can, so that the paint applies nicely, assembling all the bits together. I was helping with painting and drilling together our pit display. So a lot of the more physical work-related stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So I guess I'm only guessing here because I have no idea, but I'm guessing your role then in a producer kind of role is just to make sure, oversee everything and make sure it all comes together in the end. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, for also sort of in charge of, the aesthetic design of everything. All of the advertising material I take a look at and make sure it fits with our team aesthetic. So in general, I sort of make sure that everything looks Blaze Racing.
Yeah. Nice.
Dude, that's legit. Okay, who's next? Seriously. Okay. Guys are like little adults. Sorry, not little. I mean young adults. How do you guys have your lives together so much at this stage? Seriously,
that's what you think.
It means Hamid's just so far behind getting his act together, aren't you? When are you gonna catch up, man?
When I reach your age, 42 was it? Sorry. This is just
take it away.
Friendly banter.
I'm Abram, and I'm the media and enterprise manager of our team. So I'm in charge of maintaining contact with sponsors, as well as maintaining our social media, which is where you see a lot of our team's activities. And as enterprise manager, I'm in charge of putting together our team's portfolio and maintaining actions such as time management, project management. That was my main goal, my main job.
So were you chasing people up for hey man, get that done by now?
We were chasing him up.
The truth comes out.
No, but he did that too as well.
I saw the bus coming, you just threw him right underneath him. Right?
So tell us, you're on social media then. Can people, if they want to check you out on social media?
HS Blaze Racing.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. And
last but not least.
Yep. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm the team manager.
Should be good.
Yep. So I'm in charge of mostly making sure our team works well together, we're on task, keeping to deadlines, and just general checking everything's done to a good standard.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, so you're the guy in charge then. Did you bring out a whip every time people went?
Maybe a little for Abram, but man, otherwise we worked well.
That was the second bus. Abram.
Poor Abram's copying it today. What did you learn though about, I guess, being a team leader? Because that's probably a pretty hard role, isn't it? I think a lot of people think that you get to cop out on work when you're the team leader, but often you end up doing lot more work, I think.
Yeah.
That's my experience anyway.
Yeah, it's somewhat like that, but I feel like I sometimes would just get the extra jobs that no one can fill. Like I helped with the production of the pit display. I helped with some of the assembly of the car. And just, I think being a leader, you just need to understand how your team works and just help them do their job efficiently. You don't really need to force your own ideals onto them. So that's what I think is good.
It's important how...
Wait, dude. That's some stuff I learned like at uni doing a leadership course. You guys have figured this out by yourself. That's not fair, man. Okay.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, it's an important job I found as well, because if you don't have that person that kind of just pulls it all together, it can be very, separated. You really need that. It's a role in itself. Go on.
I was just going to ask, like, you guys are going on to...
Well, you have some exciting news. How about we get to that, and then we'll talk about the development of your car. So why don't you guys tell us what your exciting news is?
All right, so in late October, we competed at the state level competition.
That was the one at Western Sydney, wasn't it?
Yes,
where we
at
met you
Western
guys?
Sydney University. And we came second in our division, which gets us through to the national competition in Tasmania next March.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting.
That'll be great. And how many teams compete in that national competition?
There are 4 or 5 New South Wales teams and about 25
All up.
from the whole country.
And I think these guys were saying before that only a few teams get picked out of that to represent Australia internationally. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. You guys want to say? Yeah.
I think there's only like 2 or 3 teams that go and participate in the international finals from Australia.
Yeah.
And usually it's Australia that wins the international.
Oh,
so
nice. Yeah. Well, Australia's pretty big into F1, but that's interesting. I didn't know we would be taking it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually, in Australia, we have a record that Queensland teams always go to internationals, but NSW teams are like right up behind them. And at internationals, Australia has
like
won.
State of Origin kind of.
So I was about to say the exact same thing, even though I don't watch it yet.
Oh, no. Yeah, and I reckon this time we can turn it around, get a NSW team into internationals.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask, like, what sort of changes are you guys planning to make, or have you made to your car to ensure that, like...
Yeah, why don't you take us through the car development? Because what year are you guys in now?
We're in year 10 right now.
Year 10. So you guys have been together as a team for how long?
So as a team, our team has gone through lots of like shifts of management. So it actually started off as 3 separate F1 teams many years ago, like many by 3 years ago. And so I was from one team, Leonard and Abram were from a different team, and Nathan was from a different team. And we joined this team last year, thoughting that we all made it to state, and we were all doing good separately. And I reckon if we brought all the members of the team together, it would be even better. And Ryan joined along earlier this year.
Yeah, awesome.
So talk to us about the design of your car and how that's developed over time, and how you're going to, if you're going to change anything to, increase your chances of winning in the nationals.
Of course. So this is actually one of our timelines. So
I might keep talking. I'm just going to move the computer and we'll get a look at that.
Yeah.
We could just use a phone later and just record it.
I've already done
I don't
yeah,
mind.
talk to us. Yeah,
no,
please.
keep talking.
So we kind of, as you can see, one of our early cars were really bulky, really heavy. We kind of understand how the weight should be distributed along the car. The weight should be higher up, so it's in line with the gas canister to push it straight forward rather than down and lose energy. We want.
So if it's not at the same height, then it just pushes it down.
Yeah. So if the center of gravity is very low, then the car is in general just pushed down into the ground as it goes along. And we are trying to, like, as we can see, this was very low, and we bought side pods higher. And because of regulations, it is difficult. But for our next car design, we want to get it in line with the canister hole. So to make it as efficient as possible, we want to reduce the drag of the car by minimizing frontal surface area. And we also want to start everything at a point and finish everything at a point. That way, so there's this thing called a separation bubble. So when air is moving along the surface of the car, it kind of, at the end, it just drifts off and it creates a small vacuum at the back, which pulls the car back. But if you just lead it into like a point like this does, then it kind of like reduces the area of the vacuum and it's in general faster.
Right, I saw that on Mythbusters.
Mythbusters.
Where they were doing that with a train, and they're trying to see if they could get that suction at the end of the train. They were trying to pull stuff with it, but yeah.
Oh, wow. One thing that struck me is the difference, and maybe you can chuck us a few of them, Hamid, the difference in these front wing designs as we run down here. So let's just have a look at a couple of these, and maybe you can explain while I'm just putting them in the camera, like how these differences have helped your car.
Right, so...
Because this one's pretty garish, isn't it? You know?
It's bulky, it's heavy, and so we wanted to, of course, redirect the air over and around the wheel, because the wheel is, you don't want too much air hitting the wheel directly.
Yeah.
But in doing so, we didn't also want to create drag or like turbulent airflow, so we kind of had to find a balance between the two. So how do we direct the most air around the wheel without it being aerodynamically bad?
So that probably led on to something like this then, I'm guessing?
Slimmer.
Yeah.
Slimmer, and the shape has more to do with it rather than the size.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I notice if we take like this red one here, how is this one different? Because this one has a dip on the front, doesn't it?
Yeah. So what we did was, instead of having a full wing that created that airflow separation for the wheel, we just had it right next to the wheels, so the air can just pass through.
And I guess
the center
pushes it over the wheel a little
over the
more?
wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then your latest design, how is this one different? It looks quite different actually, doesn't it?
It's quite different. We've made it a lot slimmer, and what we've tried to do this time, what we tried to do was that we directed the airflow to the bottom of the wheel, and doing so the wheel spins in the same direction as the air's hitting it. So we reckon if we can get air to hit it that way, it would spin faster.
Right,
hopefully.
It's like a boost.
Yeah. And how do you guys test these designs? Like, how do you find out? Like, do you set up a track, or do you? Somebody else.
You see, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because our preparation time for state level competition was very short. We had about a month, 20, 29, 30 something days. So testing has been hard for us, like as a team. We just haven't had much time to do so. A lot of our testing was done virtually using CFD, or computer fluid dynamics. I believe that's what it's called. You can correct me.
That is.
Awesome, yeah. So a lot of our testing was done virtually, and we would analyze the results and look at the drag coefficient that the computer gives us. and we would try and come up with like a theory of why. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do much physical testing, but that's definitely going to change for the next level.
Yeah.
That's one of our priorities, to get testing as soon as possible.
So I'm guessing from that then there's a really big difference between the physical testing and the virtual testing in your mind, or do you think the virtual testing's been pretty decent so far at least? Or
we had some troubles with our virtual testing. Just technological problems always happens, and physical testing gives you a better idea of how your car acts under stress, and how it's actually going to work on the day.
Yeah.
And after you've run it a few times, bits start to wear out, so you get more. You get to see how that works. Whereas fluid, virtual testing, it gives you your numbers and your very quantitative results, but you just don't get that sort of real how it works sort of experience.
Yeah, and because F1 teams do both as well, don't they? Yeah.
Okay, because we're kind of like reaching towards.
Yeah, we should find out what they want to do.
Yeah. How about we ask them why you got involved in this,
and then where you want to go in the future? Not necessarily with this, just what you guys want to do
with your life.
Do you want to take this question one by one?
Yeah. Okay. You might as well kick it off.
You have it. I guess I'll start. Well, I started the F1 in Schools competition 2-3 years ago now. I started in one of the lower divisions, the development class, and I sort of just did it because just because it was a thing to get out of class for a day or two. But
I was saying to Hamid when we came in today that I used to do heaps of things like this as well, and like how I used to miss out on heaps of like periods. It was awesome.
Yeah, because that's pretty close to why I took it at the beginning. But
you should see his teacher's face as he said, "He's like,
yes,
but I loved honesty."
But after getting the experience in the school level competition, and through some miracle we made it to the regional competition, as a team we started working together, and we really started to enjoy it, and we made it through to the state level competition. And it was like, when we got there, we saw the level of competition. It was insane how much effort some of these teams put in, and it's like I wanted to get to the next level. And now that we made it to nationals, I'm super happy about it. So it sort of just started because I was bored and I wanted to do something. And it's been easily one of the most fun things I've done in school. It's way more interesting than
That's awesome.
Class.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it out loud.
So what do you want to do then in the future? I know it might be year 10. You guys said. I know it might be a pretty far off question now, but
even if you say fireman, that's acceptable.
I wanted to be a rock star when I was in year 10. So talk about pipe dreams.
And 30 years later.
I mean, it's not really something I put a whole lot of thought into. Engineering seems fun, but I still want to do something creative. So I was thinking maybe even like writing or film. I just want to, do something where you make
start a podcast.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. Although I think that market's a bit saturated already. So just something creative, where you get to make stuff and see what you've done at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Who's next?
I guess we have the standing guys. Then we'll go. Sorry.
Push your way in.
Yep.
Yep.
So I discovered the competition in year 7 when Leonard told me about it, and I decided to join to kill time, and it's easily become one of the more fun things I do in life. I'm looking to becoming an electrical engineer in the future, hopefully. Okay. I've really enjoyed engineering after competing in the project for 3 years.
So have you taken skills from this experience that you think will be useful?
I've realized the importance of documentation of the design process. As the enterprise manager, a lot of my job is involved with documentation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's incredibly important because we're both scientists, and it's exactly the same thing in science. If you go and do an experiment and then you come back out and there's something that's not quite right, if you don't take good notes about how you did it, you have no idea what went wrong or what you've got to do next to fix it up. Yeah, that's cool.
When I saw that, I'm like, I have like awesome memory. I'm going to remember all these details. And then like the next time I'm like, what did I do in that experiment? So I totally appreciate what you're saying. Yeah.
Cool. Ryan.
Yep, so I got involved in this competition because I'm in the engineering elective class with all of these guys. So I wasn't involved in year 7, year 8, or year 9. I was just part of the class. I knew all of them. I'm friends with them. But then they were looking for another person to help with their project. So I joined as a substitute. So I haven't been in this competition as long as these guys. But from what I've had, it's quite amazing, like the level of competition, how much effort you have to put in to actually get great results. And I'm thinking if we compete next year as well, I'll definitely do it. So, and in the future, I think I'm leaning towards mechanical or mechatronics engineering in that sort of field.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
You can build us a robot in the future when we need
to keep the microphone up.
Yeah, exactly. You can hold it for us.
Oh my God. No, that was savage, but I like it.
So I've also been involved for a long time in this competition, and in general, I believe that it's because you learn theory in class, you learn how to make cars run well, you learn how to market a team or how to write a good portfolio, but you never get to really do it. And this was a way to put all that knowledge into like a practical use. And at the end of the day, when you see something that you have actually made, it's a lot more satisfying. And I reckon it's just been a whole lot of fun working with these guys and, spending days doing this. Learned lots of skills like AutoCAD in general, which will be a big employability skill, being able to use AutoCAD software. And in general, it's been just really fun. And just like him, I want to go into mechatronics. That's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah. Do you guys watch that show, the robot fighting show?
Yeah. I watched that. What was it called? Forgot. I don't know.
Robots.
Yeah, the robot fighting cage match.
Something like that. It's the UFC for robots.
BattleBots.
BattleBots. Okay.
So I've been involved in this program for 3 years. So I was in a team with Abram 3 years ago, and we made it to the state finals. But unfortunately, like, we weren't good enough, and we didn't make it to the nationals. So I really feel like this year, how we made it to the nationals, it's quite a big achievement, and the level of competition it is. And because 3 years ago we were in a lower competition, like class, yeah, that the competition wasn't that high, and because we didn't have to do as much, like for example, we didn't have to do a pit display, and we didn't have to do a portfolio either. We just had to do a big poster, and so yeah. And in the future, like, I think I want to become an aerospace engineer. Because I'm really interested in planes and aerodynamics and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Okay, so you guys are going to build us robots, and you're building us a spaceship in the future.
Yeah. Okay, I'll write you something on the trip.
Nice. Cool. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. It's I'm kind of jealous seeing you guys have your lives together so much, and you've thought about your future. Well, man, I don't have it.
Well, it's a good facade. Yeah, it's very good.
A very convincing facade. But yeah, it's really cool that you guys have learned so much from this challenge. And the bigger the challenge, the more you learn, I suppose. And I'm sure everyone's going to kill it in the future.
Yeah, we might have to. Good luck for the competition, the nationals in Tasmania. We might have to have you on after that in late March or something. You said it was. Yeah.
Thank
you. That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.